Hello and welcome to the Voice Extra podcast. Today I am here with voice contributor, journalism student and blogger.
Saskia.
Hey, how you doing today, Saskia?
I'm great, thanks, Taya. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. I just went on a walk, so that was good. Actually making sure I go outside for once, which is nice. So, if you weren't stuck at home, what would you be doing right now?
Well, today's Saturday, so I would probably be out with my friends, just like having dinner at a restaurant or something. I really miss restaurants. I never thought I would miss them so much, but I miss just going somewhere, like, having a good meal and like going to the cinema, especially.
Having a good meal and not having to cook it is
Yeah.
something that, yeah.
I mean, I love cooking, but you need a break every now and then, so.
hmm It's like when you're walking down there, you're just like, there's nothing here, I have to cook. Like, I can't even go anywhere, I have to cook.
Yeah. I know it makes you more creative though in the kitchen because you actually have to
Yeah.
think about what you're eating, so it kind of works out.
hmm Also, I definitely feel you're missing the cinema. I'm so used to just being like, oh, let me just pop off to the cinema, and now it's not happening.
I know, and it's not the same. I know that they're doing all these, like they're releasing it straight to on demand and everything like that, but I don't like it. The cinema's an experience. It's not
Yeah.
just about what you're watching.
Especially, I think certain films like only work in the cinema.
Yeah.
Like 1917. I think if I watched that at home, I would get bored in about 10 minutes. Um,
I don't even want to admit this, but I still haven't seen it.
I completely get it. It is very much like cool spectacle, but there's not much to the plot or the characters.
Oh, it's not like Dunkirk, is it?
It's it's the Dunkirk of lost Oscars basically in terms of
Um,
it's
ugh,
very technically brilliant and but the plot and characters have very little to them.
Dunkirk was so disappointing. Like, I actually really like films about war,
Yeah.
especially like World War One and World War Two. And I was on a train to Liverpool, and I was like, oh, I downloaded Dunkirk like specifically because I hadn't watched it yet, and I was just so disappointed. Like, I wish I had just slept.
Yeah. That's another you have to watch it the cinema one because Dunkirk. That's the this because the things that are good about that film are like the sound design and the cinematography, and watching it on a laptop on the train is like you realize
Yeah,
all the things that just don't hold up about the film.
it was. Yeah, it's such a massive disappointment. And
hmm
now I'm a bit sad because I thought 1917 was going to be better, but I think I'm going to take your word for it.
I mean, it's visually interesting, but it
Mm.
is in terms of the things that are good about it, it's very similar to Dunkirk, and the things that are bad about it are pretty similar to Dunkirk again.
Oh,
Like I
great.
those films hold the same kind of space in my head.
Yeah. I mean, I get why you don't really need to like focus on the characters and stuff. It's a story that's been told like so many times, but I don't know, it there was just something missing a lot for me from Dunkirk.
I'm just like the thing with those films of like there are so many different things you can do within that space, and you're just like, let me retell the same kind of story but just make it look very pretty, and it looks very pretty, but you're also like, you could do more with it. Like I feel like a lot of the problem a lot of those types of films fall into is that they don't really have a point of view. Like
Yeah.
they're just like, hey, war, it happened.
That's so true. That's so true. But I didn't
Yeah.
really do very well with a lot of the Oscar films for this year. Like I still haven't seen Parasite. I think the only one I did see was A Marriage Story, and that really just gave me a headache.
No, now you've got to explain what gave you a headache at Magic Marriage Story.
Yeah, it really, it was. Did you see it? Did you like Marriage
Yeah,
Story?
I've watched it. There was like a 2 week period before the Oscars where I was like, oh, I have to write an article about this. Let me just quickly watch all of them. Uh,
It was intense.
it is a very intense film.
Yeah.
You're just like, why? Please be nice to each other. And it's just,
Yeah. I still, I think my biggest issue with Marriage Story is Laura Linney winning the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress.
you say Laura Linney?
Yeah.
Is it Laura Lynn? I thought it was Laura Dern.
Oh, sorry, Laura Dern.
But yeah, I get what you mean. I think her Oscar there is more of a somehow Laura Dern hasn't got an Oscar,
Yeah.
so let's just give
Let's
her one, I
give her one.
guess.
Because I know that she's done other films where she's been really good in, but this was just, I was expecting her character to give the film so much more, and it was just like this one scene where she gave a speech about how horrid men are, and then that was about
Yeah.
it.
I mean, it was a very good speech, but yeah,
It
it was.
was. It was a very good speech. I'm just not so sure if it was Oscar worthy speech.
Well, even by Laura Dern standards, I'd say you don't get the best performance you could have gotten from her. And it's not even necessarily her fault. I feel like it's more like the character is there for a specific purpose.
Yeah,
So there's limits to what she can even do there, which is why it's like there's definitely other things that maybe could have won. I don't know.
yeah, I agree. But I haven't seen the rest of the film, so I can't really say anything.
Compared to the other films in the category, she was from it was either her or Florence Pugh for Little Women, but like I feel like they could have nominated better films in general. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it wasn't great. Like the selection was just a bit like, oh, okay. I mean, I was happy for Parasite winning so much.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, the rest of the films I think they could have done a little better. It's over now,
I'm
so
yeah, I'm very curious what happens this year.
I was literally just about to say like, what are they? I think it's just gonna be Netflix dominated.
I think because the thing is, I think maybe not the Oscars, but they'll probably follow suit. Is at least one of the film awards has changed their rules so that it doesn't necessarily have to be released in theaters this year. So I feel like they'll
Okay,
probably do the same thing. My thing is, I'm wondering what films, whether this will mean Oscar voters will watch more films or less films.
yeah, that's a good point actually. I mean, surely it would be more.
You say that, but the way they watch films is the way most Oscar voters get their films is like the movie studios like send it to them, like they get screeners and stuff because there's some sort of industry.
Hmm.
So in theory, the way they watch most of these films, apart from the ones they really like, is basically the same. So I'm curious as to how much it changes stuff, or whether it means that they basically have an excuse to only watch like 10 films.
Right. I mean, it gives us something to look forward to, I guess.
Can't wait for that Trolls movie that came out to win Best Picture because
Oh.
there's just nothing else.
Did you? I take it you liked it then.
I have not watched it. I have no
Oh
clue.
no, I haven't even seen the first Trolls. I really don't like Anna Kendrick.
Oh, what's your beef with Anna Kendrick?
It's not so much. I just every couple of years there's like one actress that Hollywood loves to just shove in our faces and put in.
Oh, like where they just decide someone will be a star irrespective of like their ability or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like she's one of those.
I see what you mean. And like she play where they've had the thing where they put her in everything and try and make her basically play the same character and everything.
Yeah, and she's got like her own Anna Kendrick air about her that she brings into every movie, whether the movie
Yeah.
calls for it or not.
Mhm.
And
I
it's
I
almost
don't.
like
Yeah.
she having her in that movie has become more important than the movie itself, and I just don't really like that.
Yeah, I see what you mean. There are definitely those actors. I mean, a lot of people love Timothy Chalamet, but he's basically that as well. I
But
think
the
he's
guy
a bit.
version,
Yeah, I think he's maybe a better actor-ish, but I do think there is an extent to which it is like, oh, we've got a new film, let's put him in there. We've got a new film, let's put him in there.
yeah, they do the same thing every couple of years, and then they kind of do it to the point where we just get sick of this person, and everybody gets sick of that person, and then they end up hating them. Like I remember when Anne Hathaway was in every movie, and I don't have a problem with Anne Hathaway, but then all
Yeah,
of a sudden Hollywood like turned on her, and it was just really hard to see.
yeah, because but essentially because of like, it's almost like it's not even directly her fault. It's just the fact of everyone tried to cast her at the same time.
And then everyone just kind of ended up hating her. So
So speaking of like films and stuff, what sort of things have you been watching in this time?
um, film wise, I watched a couple of films that, when something comes out and there's so much that you go to see, and then a couple of films slip through the net and you just don't get a
Yeah.
chance to watch them. So I kind of go on Sky Movies and I go a couple weeks ahead and just start recording a bunch of random stuff.
Hmm.
Um, I watched. Do you remember that? I think it was 2018. This film came out called Searching.
Yes, I love Searching. I watched it on a plane. It was great.
Oh my god, it was great! I can't believe it had taken me 2 years to see it. Like I really wanted to watch it because I don't know, it just seemed different and fresh, and
Yeah.
I was expecting it to be a little bit more predictable than it was, but I actually really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, that ending got me. I'll keep it vague for the listeners, but that ending got me.
Yeah. It was, I did not see it coming. And I'm usually quite good at things like that. Definitely, if ever who's listening, if you haven't seen Searching with Deborah Messing and the guy from Harold and Kumar, I don't know his name.
Isn't it John? Yeah, John Cho.
That one. It's a really, really good film. Yeah, movies I haven't really been doing well. I haven't done well with anything. I think the last like new thing that I actually saw the day it came out was Tiger King. And I'm sure everyone's so sick of hearing about it already, but I could not believe like what I was seeing.
Yeah, it's a very wild documentary. It's just yeah. Have you watched the new episode or whatever they put out?
With Joe McHale.
Is he in that? I don't know. I haven't watched it.
Yeah, he's the one hosting it, and then he video chats with some of the characters. Yeah, I saw it.
How was it?
Revealing, I think, is the best way to put it. They just kind of, I mean, I'm quite surprised about some of the people who actually were willing to come back onto the show and defend themselves or talk about like their character. Yeah, it was funny. It was quite short. It was funny, but they just so many differences of like opinion and the way that they saw it, and like they watched obviously the documentary, and they're just kind of like, oh, you made us look like this, or it didn't really happen this way, blah blah blah. But
Mm,
it's safe to say that they all hate um what's his name, Joe Exotic.
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
there's no love lost, and I think they all want him to rot in jail for the rest of his life.
he does not seem like as much as he's a fun character. He does not seem like a particularly nice person to be around.
Yeah.
He's very much like a let me just watch you on TV and nowhere else.
Yeah, like, can you imagine actually being in the same room with somebody like that? Like, no.
Yeah, and especially since there is a lot of stuff they cut out to make, if anything, to make him seem more pleasant than or not pleasant, but more likable than he actually is, right? And
Yeah,
what was it?
definitely.
In that episode, in his political episode, where he's like, "Yeah, I'll just like jump off this roof forever," and you're like, imagine being the person there, and you're like, "What am I meant to do? How am I meant to feel right now?"
I just, but there must have been something about him that people liked, because you don't stay like in a zoo with somebody who is like, the worst human being possible for as many years as some of those people did.
I think part of the thing is a lot of them are just in one way or another need somewhere and have basically been failed by the system.
No, and if that's by design, then that makes him a worse person than you know,
Yeah, I
if
think
he
that is
made it that way.
one of the things it definitely skates over is that it feels like at least with at least one of the like boyfriend husbands, the line is very unclear there. There seems to be a thing of, oh, he's a drug addict and he's giving him access to drugs, which was a bit like, maybe go more into that rather than like mentioning it once, like 5 episodes in.
Yeah. In the episode that they did afterwards, the guy, the one with all the messed up teeth, like he's got his
Yeah,
teeth fixed, and he was like, I'm not actually like that. I'm actually like a really likable kind of out there person, but the
yeah.
way that you made it look is that I was constantly like on drugs and just kind of did whatever he said, and he like he says that that's not what he was like.
Yeah, he seemed like one of the more likable ones. I was like, you know what? If I met you, we could be friends.
Yeah, he looks like the kind of guy you could have a drink with.
Whereas there's other ones where I'm just like, you're an intolerable person, and please never speak to me ever.
Yeah. And they even said as well, that apparently he was afraid of tigers. Like Joe Exotic was actually afraid of tigers, and the ones, in the season where you see him in the cage with that big
Yeah.
white tiger, apparently that tiger was blind, which is the only
Oh.
reason why Joe would be in the cage with him.
Oh my god. Wow.
Yeah. How can you call yourself the Tiger King and be afraid of tigers?
Also, this is also my thing with the way with I don't think it's a well constructed documentary because like I'm
Mm,
sorry, how do you not know that or not put that or if you know that, how do you not put it in the documentary?
I know.
Like,
I think
that seems like a very big thing to put in the documentary.
I know. I think a couple of episodes in, it's hard to tell what, like, whose side Netflix is on, or whoever was behind the camera. It's
Yeah.
almost like,
Let me find it.
do you know what I mean? It's like they started
Yeah.
out one way, and maybe they just got so caught up in it, they genuinely didn't know what their story was anymore.
Yeah,
And it's just,
it's I
here's
think
this
yeah.
mess. Watch it and tell me what you think.
It very much does have that feeling because you're just there's a certain point. Uh, I think it's Eric Good and Rebecca Chaiklin are the series directors. Um,
Right.
and you definitely get the feeling like for the first 30 minutes it acts like it's about the animals, but then it forgets the animals exist for the rest of the series. But then it's almost like it's about politics for like an episode and a half, but then it isn't. But then it's about like and it's just like what are you trying to say?
Yeah. And can you get to the point a bit faster than
Yeah,
7 episodes of everyone's life?
because it almost there's a point where it feels very sensationalist rather than having a specific purpose because it's like oh
Yeah.
look at these people in these wild circumstances and da 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 and you're like but do we want to are we making a point are we because there's certain stuff they brush over like that guy Doc Antle or whatever and you're
Oh
like
God.
and you're like is he just running a cult and you guys were just like lol I guess he's doing that like
It was I saw a meme on Instagram, and I think it's the most accurate way to describe him. It's like he's basically R. Kelly of Oklahoma.
oh my yes it, it's the same it's basically the same like
It's exactly the same thing. It was and the women there, they just seem like they're so, I mean, obviously it's easy to pretend on camera, but they didn't seem like they had a problem with it, just kind of like Jeff's wife when he's talking about being excited about the new nanny because he's going to sleep with her, like, oh my God.
I just everyone in the show is just terrible.
Yeah, the only genuine person was the boy who got his arm ripped off by the tiger.
Yes, Saf. I think him and John Finlay, who's like the husband who seems to have himself mostly put together, are like the two I would be friends with.
Yeah, even in the extra episode, like Saf is the only one who doesn't really show that much animosity to Joe.
Yeah,
He just seems like a really like genuine, just down to earth
yeah,
person.
and it is also yeah, there was a thing with Saf where afterwards it was like, oh yeah, in the documentary we literally misgendered Saf the entire time, and it was like, do we want to address this at any point? No. Okay.
Apparently not.
That was wild to me when I was like, oh, I'm seeing in a Twitter thread that you literally like what?
It's
And
so
yeah,
crazy. I don't
that's
think there'll be
bizarre.
anything like that again in a hurry.
I don't know. There's lots of strange people in the world.
I don't want to know about them. It's really, that's that's enough. Like, I think after the first, maybe while they were cutting it, they just knew that they had something that was gonna blow up and cause a stir. I think we only need something like that once a year. I don't want to know about all of these other crazy people around the world.
Yeah, it is. It is quite a lot. So, is there
Yeah.
anything else you've been like watching or making or anything?
Well, I've been watching Community because I've actually never seen it.
I
And
also have never seen it.
oh, you've never seen it either. Okay. Because the only reason I watched it, because after I saw that Tiger King episode, I was like, who is this guy who's hosting? And I was like, I recognize him from somewhere. And it turns out
Oh,
it was from Community.
yeah, I go in there.
Yeah, he's the main character. And as far as sitcoms go, it's like it's funny, and I
Hmm.
can understand why it went on for 6 years. But I don't know. I don't think it's not the kind of thing that I could watch over and over again. Like
Yeah.
I've seen Friends and The Big Bang Theory, and even things like Sex and the City, like more dramas and stuff. I've seen them like millions of times, but I don't think I could watch Community like over and over again.
What do you reckon makes this different?
It's one of those shows that comments on being a show, if
Oh,
that
okay.
makes any sense.
Well, so it's
So
like
there's this,
very self-aware.
yeah, like there's this one character called Arbed, and they think that he has like Asperger's or autism or something. Like they definitely think that he's on the spectrum because he's just very like he doesn't filter what he's saying, and he, kind of like Sheldon from Big Bang. It's a very
Yeah.
similar character, and he loves filmmaking.
As I say, it's so he's very much like a sitcom, very quick and easy version of an autistic character.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. And he's kind of, he comments on, oh, there's a romance in the show, and then he tells them, you're no Ross and Rachel, like this is boring, like we don't want to hear about Britta and Jeff. And I just think in a movie, maybe something like that is okay, but to go on like that for 6 seasons, I just think it takes something away from it. Like I know that
Yeah.
I'm watching a sitcom. I don't need you to know that you know that I'm watching a sitcom.
Okay, so almost like it feels like it's almost trying to be smarter than it is.
Yeah, because it's really ridiculous. It's not smart at all. It's kind of just it's ridiculous. It's so far fetched and unrealistic. And I know sitcoms are kind of like that anyway with their stories, but this just goes a little bit over the top.
So it would almost be better if it just like owned its silliness instead of trying to be
Yeah,
like, but actually,
yeah, exactly. I mean, there were a few good episodes in there. The some of the characters are like quite interesting. You haven't, well, I haven't seen a lot of them in other those kind of personalities being represented as much in other sitcoms. So that
yeah,
has some merit. But
fair enough.
I've
Yeah.
almost finished it now anyway. I think the only reason why I've carried on watching is because even though I didn't watch it before, it does have this overwhelming feeling of nostalgia for, like the early 2000s.
It's like a very specific like feeling of a time.
And I think that for me, that's its biggest appeal. And especially now with everything so upside down in like our society and stuff, I think you need
Yeah,
something like that.
I definitely feel like it's like a familiar thing. Yes, it's 2009 to 2015.
Yeah. So yeah, it definitely has that familiar like feeling to it.
Hmm.
But apart from watching stuff, I mean, do you want us to talk about stuff that we've been watching or things that I've kind of been creating?
Well, what have you been making? I honestly don't mind. It's up to you.
Well, I bake a lot because
Oh, yes,
you
baking is
know,
good.
yeah, I love like baking and cooking and stuff. Yesterday or the day before yesterday, I made some banana bread, which is always good. Are you a fan of banana bread?
I can't remember the last time I had banana bread. I don't think I'm against it.
I'm not against it, just haven't had it in a while. Yeah, no, I love baking and stuff, but for voice, I've been doing a creativity in lockdown series. So
Yes.
I've been interviewing. I interviewed Luke Wright, who's a poet, and he was supposed to be going on tour, but just a few days before lockdown was implemented. So he's been doing these live shows on Twitter
Yeah.
every day at 8 p.m. where he's
Hmm.
like performing his poetry, and it's a really good watch. He's a really good poet, and it's kind of like it's very emotional. There's a lot of feeling and a lot of social commentary. So he's definitely someone who
Yeah.
I would recommend. There's a singer. Her name is Nicola Hart, and she is doing this kind of like bit on Instagram where she's a singer in isolation, and she does
Hmm.
remakes to famous songs but quarantine related. And she's brilliant. She's so funny, and she's really really sweet, and her songs are just, yeah, they're great. They're really good.
That sounds good. That sounds fun. So,
Yeah,
so
my favorite one of hers is Gloria Gaynor, like I Will Survive, and
yeah.
it's all about surviving shopping during lockdown.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, that is an experience.
Yeah, it really is. Do you have any shopping horror stories?
I have generally managed to avoid the shopping and mostly leave it to other people.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
I've like I haven't really done any of the grocery stuff. I've mostly gone for, oh, I need to go get like hand wash or whatever. And generally speaking, I can go to the shops which are less busy. I think it's a lot of the big
Mm,
supermarket ones are the ones where you're just like, why are all these lines so long? And da, da, da. Yeah.
yeah. Well, you're lucky. I have not had the same experience. It's been terrible.
I mean, yeah. I have you had to fight anyone? And just get them to keep their distance.
I mean, when lockdown first happened, I went shopping and maybe the day after, and or I think it might have even been before lockdown had started. It was close anyway. It was around that
Yeah.
time, and everything had gone. Like I even wrote a blog post about it because I just couldn't believe like how crazy it was. There was no hand wash, there was no pasta, there was none of this. And I was down one of the aisles and I was like, oh crap, like we need toilet roll, like let's quickly head over there before it's all gone. And I was rushing out of the aisle and I almost crashed into this other guy's trolley, and he didn't get mad. He just like stopped, he looked at me, he reached into his trolley and gave me a packet of his toilet roll and told me that I should
Oh,
take it because he's probably got too many anyway. But the fact that I didn't even tell him that that's where I was going and he just
and
knew
he knew.
based on my body language and actions, it was a real eye opener. That's when I was like, okay, no, this is serious.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the craziest experience so far. But I know you're not probably supposed to say this, but I'm kind of enjoying the way that supermarkets have handled keeping everybody away from each other. Because if you go shopping on any normal day, people constantly are in your space.
Oh
They just
yeah,
have
yeah.
no self awareness. They have like no respect. And lockdown, I mean, all I'd have to do is like clear my throat, and I think people would run a million miles. Which is terrible to say, but I'm quite enjoying having space to actually
No,
shop and not having to rush.
I do get this. Like now, I feel like people actually respect your personal space because I mean, because
Yeah,
it's a threat to them, but they do actually respect it in a meaningful way. And I'm like, that's nice. This is good.
it really is.
So I mean, like,
I'm
keep
kind of
that
hoping
part.
it lasts.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I'm gonna miss when this is over. Just people not being, you know, inconsiderate in Asda.
Oh, I've just realized we might end up with a thing where once it feels like it's safe, even people who aren't really your proper friends are gonna maybe try and be hugging, and I'm just like, maybe not.
Oh, stay away, please. I'm not comfortable yet.
Do a little ahem, and.
Exactly. See, the whole street will clear. It's Yeah, I just have a feeling that when this is officially announced, there's going to be dancing in the street. People who hate each other, like neighbors, are going to be hugging and kissing and like getting all excited. And I'm really going to make sure I stay in the house for
You're just gonna,
that.
you're just gonna hide. So Saskia, I've got one last question for you. This
Mhm.
is a bit like
Okay,
you've got to imagine this. This is a bit of imagination exercise here.
okay,
You've got
sounds fun.
the you've got the podium at the daily briefing. The one that's about five-ish every day. Um,
All right.
the eyes of the nation are on you. The press are there, the cameras are there, everything's there. Everyone's paying attention to your every word. So, what would you want to say to them?
Oh my god. Um, just to every okay. What do I want to say to the nation? First of all, stop listening to Boris and do what you know is right. Like the numbers about COVID, right? Or
In
just
general,
anything.
about anything.
Oh, be nicer to each other. Every day I turn on the news or I read something on my phone People are mean, and I know that there's a lot of good in the world, but there are just so, like, you heard about the woman who died the other day because somebody like spat in her face while she was
Yeah,
working. Like, come on, like that woman had a family, and people are like using that as like threats now, and this is not the time to show your worst colors. Like, this is the time to just really be mindful, be empathetic, and just be decent human beings. Like, please just treat each other with some respect and dignity, and we will get through this. And once we do, then the whole world can go back to ignoring each other, which is fine, but just don't spread hate.
yeah.
Stop with the hate.
That is a strong message. That's good.
That is what I'd want to say to the nation if they were listening right now.
Yeah.
Be nice to each other. I've had enough of this. But yeah,
So if people want to hear more messages like that, where would they find you online?
if people want to hear my, honest opinion about what I think about things, they can head over to sincerelysaskia.com, where I talk about everything, to like what's in the news, just things that are on my mind, and sometimes I review like films, books, like whatever I'm watching at the time. So yeah, that's where to find me, or of course on VoiceMag.
Exactly. We'll link to her page in the show notes. So thank you for listening, and thank you for joining me, Saskia.
Awesome, thank you for having me.
No worries. You can find all the contributors at voice.extra on Instagram. You can go to the website to see all the posts at www.voicemag.uk. And you can go to @voicemag on Instagram and Twitter for the official Instagram and for all that sort of stuff. So thanks for joining me, and we'll come back next time with someone else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to Kevin McLeod for letting us use Shaving Mirror. You can find his stuff on incompetech.com.